Hey there! You're listening to Those Real Estate Brothers podcast, where Joseph and Jared share what they know in real estate and all things local, including local restaurants, businesses, and cool stuff. Which brother is more interesting? Well, you're about to find out.
Somebody told me neither.
Did they?
Yes.
We're neither one of us are. I think that's probably true.
Yeah, probably.
Gonna need that viewer poll.
Yeah, maybe.
So who do we have today?
We got Paul Cardone. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
So Paul's wearing a bunch of hats. He's a prior client.
Yep.
He sold a house. He bought a house. He's a Farmingdale resident.
Yeah.
And we've been on a beer kick. And who do you work for, Paul?
I work for Five Boroughs Brewing Company.
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
They're one of the big ones. And
they're a big small company. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah.
we were talking earlier. I mean, there's I think 60-something breweries in Long Island. They're a dime a dozen, it seems like. And everyone makes IPAs. There's a million IPAs out there, but it's amazing every one of them tastes different.
It's the only beer I don't like.
Oh, you're not an IPA guy?
No, I like.
What's your style?
You know what? I'm not sure I even know, but it was before the pandemic. It was Miller Lite. Like I didn't even bother with anything else.
Yeah.
And basically, I wanted my beer to taste as much like cold, fizzy water as I could get. And during the pandemic, I felt bad for all the small brewers, some right here in Farmingdale. So I started buying beer that they made, and it was like being 16 again, like pretending you like the beer. And I realized, okay, the IPA is really not good, but the lagers and ales and pilsners, okay, that's all that I like, that I could do.
Yeah, that
and,
you're down for.
So why do all the microbrewers, smaller brewers, why do they hone in on IPA?
I think a lot of it right now really is just that's the market trend that's been holding strong for a few years now. I mean, a number of years really, when the hazy IPAs became a thing and became popular. Everybody jumped on that train and brought a lot of new people into craft beer, and that's kind of the beer that they know. Mm-hmm. So that's what they continue to buy. You always have people who start to get a little bored with it, and they start looking at the lagers or the sours, where it's another kind of trend that everybody has kind of hit on.
I feel like ales and lagers get a bad rap because there's lots of good flavorful ones, but the ones you get at Stop and Shop, they're not overly good in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's lagers start to make a good lager. You can make a good lager fairly easily. To make a lager that stands out and is really good is tough.
It takes time, right?
It takes time, and it takes there's a lot of nuance because you're not relying on a lot of IPAs rely on just that burst of hops to hide any flaws that may be in the beer or just to give you that initial taste explosion, where lagers you need to develop the flavor. It needs to generally ferment for at least a month, sometimes 45 days or even longer.
Which is a complication for some of these small microbreweries, right?
It is, because to tie up that tank space for that long, then you're not putting something else in there. A lot of ales you could turn around in 2 weeks. Most IPAs 2 weeks, right, as opposed to a month or something. So you definitely need to have the tank space for.
And I'm sure there's something to, we're not going to out Budweiser Bud, so let's not even try to. We don't want to make a better Bud. We want to make what we think is what people are going to really like and respond to.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of approaches when people are figuring out what they want to make. Like some people are going after the market, which you have to do sometimes. I mean, what the market wants. Some people very strictly are making. Some breweries are almost only lagers, and they're craft lagers, and people are going there for that reason. Some places make wild and spontaneous fermentation ales, all this sour stuff. There's Belgian breweries. St. James on Long Island is a Belgian brewery,
which is more or less a traditional brewery.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to go about it. A lot of ways to kind of decide what you're going to make and formulate your business plan. But IPAs are a pretty sure thing these days,
and it's quick, easy.
Yeah,
but you can't store them, right? You got to drink them kind of fresh.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a matter of preference, but yeah, I mean, most people would say that you'd want to drink an IPA within 3 months of it being packaged. Yeah, but
what does it change the taste? Does it change?
Yeah, the hops kind of fall off, and you're going to lose some of the aroma of the hops and some of the juicier, fruitier notes, and it's gonna they start to oxidize over time, essentially.
I was talking to Manny on a prior podcast with Lithology Brewing, and we were talking about the art of naming the new beers. Are you part of that at all? Are you in the same room when you're trying to figure out the name of the beer?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we do have we use Slack as just a general communication tool at work, and we do have a beer name channel in Slack. Just when people think of stuff, they could throw it out there. And yeah, we do.
I'm sure the suggestion box gets really full.
It comes and goes in waves. But it is something that we do kind of chime in on, and also we do have an employee pilot program where we make beers that are only sold in the tap room, and whoever makes that beer usually gets to choose the name. But for a lot of our, we run a core lineup of beers, just our Tiny Juicy IPA and Pilsner and stuff, and those aren't really.
You're pretty mature.
Yeah,
you have your lineup.
Yeah, we have those, but when we do one-offs, we tend to stick with a New York City or New York City transportation theme kind of thing, or just like our beer that we just made for New York City Beer Week, which was a couple of weeks back, is just called Pigeon, and it's an IPA, double IPA. It's got a big pigeon on the.
It's a great
label.
name for a New York beer.
Yeah, and then the one before that was World's Best Cup of Stout, which is a play on like the Greek coffee cup, the blue coffee cup. With the label.
I think I saw that. You have some stuff out on that, right?
Yeah. It's out in the back.
That's the best story ever. That was like a failed paper cup salesman couldn't get his, like, what do I need your paper cups? I already have a supplier for paper cups, until he realized all the people he was talking to were Greek. So he made the cups Greek looking, and they all just bought from him.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
I'll take yours instead of the white one. And that's why that blue Greek-ish, coffee cup has become New York City, because so many of the diners and coffee shop owners or managers were Greek.
That sounds like a podcast topic.
We'll have
The
to
origins
make
of
one.
that.
Does.
New York is funny with because you guys are really not just New York themed. I mean, you're in New York. This is where the brewery exists. But New Yorkers are funny because we like nothing more than the icons of New York, and there's a lot of pride in that. And the only other thing we enjoy more is talking about how New York City's horrible and nobody ever goes there, despite the fact that it's, the trains are packed and the roads are packed. Yeah. So it's probably interesting when you're trying to name stuff like, well, been some bad press about subways that we really want. Yeah, no, it's okay, because even though everyone hates it, they still identify with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just picking up on those things that are part of daily lives of New Yorkers. It usually rings true.
In your position, do you have the chance of brewing one of those beers that are in the tap room?
I did, yeah.
Did you?
I did one 2 years ago. Well, it was 2 years ago already, yeah. Like, I think it was October 2 years ago, maybe. Yeah, I brewed an English dark mild. It's just a low ABV, easy drinking, darker beer.
Nice.
Yeah. That seems to be a trend, the lower alcohol beers.
Yeah, 100%. Even non-alcohol, like it's companies like Athletic Brewing and
I've seen those.
Yeah,
at Whole Foods.
They it's a big segment right now.
They make alcoholic beer as well.
Athletic does not.
No.
They only make non-alcoholic.
Wow.
A lot of craft breweries are. It's hard to do in-house at a certain size unless you're really going to make a run at it, because you have to pasteurize the beer.
Okay.
So it's that means you need to have a. Well, I mean, there are other approaches, but for the most part, you're going to have to pasteurize that beer, and it's that gets expensive, for a small brewery. But low alcohol or almost, no alcohol is definitely a trend.
I mean, that's changed for me, and I'm not some great beer drinker, but we'll say 21, it was all about high alcohol. Like, okay, 6 of these, and that's all you're gonna need. And as somebody with 3 kids who wake up at 6:30 in the morning, I played darts last night on a dart team. You don't really need to come home, smacked up. You might have wanted. You enjoy having those beers with friends, but you don't need to have a rough morning.
Yeah, that tracks. I mean, it's just kind of like a time and a place for all those beers. I enjoy a lot of big beers, even occasionally some of the barrel aged stuff. Right these days, a lot of that's a little too sweet for me, but I still go there every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, you don't need to be drinking 14%.
No, you can get in trouble with that.
We used to bring Molson Triple X home from Montreal because it was higher in alcohol, and somehow that made sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a sweet spot. I mean, I go to Good Life all the time, and the bartenders, it's a big joke because I say I want something in the sweet spot, and it's basically 6.7 to 7.2. There's a lot of good
pretty high.
IPAs in there. It's flavorful. You can really taste the hops, and it's good beer, but it won't get you in too much trouble.
I mean, that's how Dad orders his wine. Do you have anything from California with about 13.8% alcohol
No,
or better?
he wants 15.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Bottle
Over
of red,
14.
yeah, 15. He's really impressed when he sees the 15% alcohol.
It's good to know what you're looking for in your beverage.
Yeah,
I guess so. You know, I guess part of the lower alcohol trend. So I'm 40, 3 kids, and when I go to brewery tap rooms or you know, when you're talking about craft beer, people tend to be around my age with kids my age. So that's become a big trend in the tap rooms. You know, are you going to be kind of open to families coming in and embrace that, or try to avoid that? But even probably in your marketing, it's got to be like you're marketing to a family now. Of course, not to kids and stuff, but to parents and you know, people are changing those stages in lives. Whereas those same people 20 years ago were really at the forefront of the craft brewery movement.
Look at Greenport. I mean, they got the bocce and the
some of these breweries are like children's party places for adults. I mean,
it definitely goes a long way. You know, if somebody knows that they can bring their kids and they're not gonna, at least they'll be entertained, or that they're not gonna be shunned for it, you know, it just gives them another reason to come out. So yeah, I mean, all that stuff is you know, a couple board games and also some treats for the dogs goes a long way.
Dogs in tap rooms are a big trend too. You see that just about any time you go to one.
So what local places you like?
Here, yeah, I mean, our 2 Main Street breweries are good. You know, Lithology does a really good job, especially with, you know, the all New York State ingredients that they do. That can be a tough row.
You kind of put yourself in the corner sometimes. I
guess.
guess.
It gives you, it limits you, and they've been doing it for a while now, and they really do a good job. Necromantic is also, I've only been there once, but yeah, I mean, it's an interesting approach. The gluten-free thing, I think I see on their social media that it's really well received. I mean, a lot of people, the demand is greater than I would have anticipated it to be.
I think it was greater than he anticipated, which is why you've only been there once. He's had trouble keeping up with the demand.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, brewery. I know we had an equipment issue at one point, which you know, that breweries are expensive to keep running. Right. You know, things break a lot, but you know, yeah, I mean, it's really cool that they got that open and that they're, you know, it's doing well.
Another place I haven't been yet is Sand City, the one in Lindenhurst. I've been to the one in Northport, right?
Yeah.
But I heard the place is really cool.
Yeah, it's good. It's really nice. They converted an old CVS into the brewery, so it's like laid out kind of strange, but it's got a lot of.
Where's your lagers? Aisle 4.
Yeah, right. They got a nice size tap room for sure, and the location is great. Lindenhurst in general is really.
And Hermana's, I believe, serves food. Over
yeah,
there.
they do. Yeah, and they usually have Sand City usually has a food truck as well. So they got, again, you just gotta. It's all these little things, you know. You bring out a food truck, or you're bringing out, you know, a lot of the breweries around here do that beer and bar or whatever it is that they call it. It's like kind of like a bar class mixed with like ballet bar mixed with.
I've seen the yoga and
yoga and all that kind of stuff. It's you know, keeping that tap room full is about programming these days.
Oh, bar, BAR.
Yeah, BAR. Yeah, and Sand City does a good job with that.
It's got to be exhausting as running a tap room, because all right, I want to make beer. I think I could make some good beer, so I'm going to make good beer. And then, you know, you're running trivia nights on Tuesday. It's like, I don't know if I was really prepared to be a trivia guy. You know, we talk about that with the social media, the podcast. Selling houses and running a podcast, the two don't really seem to go together, but of course they do, because people have so many options to do different things. You got to remind them you exist and have something fun.
You got to be one of those cruise entertainment directors, right? Where you're rallying up the troops for limbo or something.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interestingly, you know, the things that catch on. You know, we do a Dungeons and Dragons night once a month, that a regular had kind of approached us about, and we do well on that night. People.
What happens during that night?
I've actually never been to it because it's later than I'm usually in Brooklyn. But yeah, I mean they kind of take over a few tables in the tap room, and they play Dungeons and Dragons or whatever other games
Nice.
that they.
So
may wanna play, but-
Brooklyn has a long history of brewing beer, right? I mean,
yeah.
back to like colonial days, I guess, not pre, but colonial days. I mean, for a long time, Brooklyn was almost the epicenter of New York beer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge brewery historian, like super far back, but there definitely there were a lot of breweries up until basically, I don't know, I'd say 50s, 60s, and 70s when Anheuser-Busch and everybody started coming in and kind of squashing stuff, but Brooklyn, I mean, yeah, I would assume it being a port and everything, there was
Makes sense.
Yeah, probably a lot of brewing and a lot of I mean, I have a lot of old beer bottles, antique bottles, and a lot of them are from Brooklyn. So yeah, I would assume.
What are the chances we're not going to have a beer tonight? What about you? You probably
Pretty
won't.
good. I got lacrosse practice with
All
the
right.
kids, so
I mean, I shouldn't say I'm always down. I got to sleep sometimes, but
what makes Five Towns a little different? How do you guys see yourself as being different than other places?
I mean, I think we have a pretty unique approach as far as, I don't want to say necessarily the business model, but we are, a primarily distribution based model, but we also do make a lot of one-offs and kind of specialty beers that are good as well. We're
Right.
not just turning out our cores and disregarding, just doing these for the sake of getting them out there. I mean, we take pride in those beers and people enjoy them. And I think, having kind of, you can still get our beer in the supermarket for, $12 a six pack
Right.
or something like that. But we've got some of the higher end stuff as well. So
The price is 6-packs. Sometimes it's out of control.
Yeah.
Or 4-packs for that matter.
or 4-packs. Yeah. We're again, we try to keep it reasonable and accessible to everybody, but also maintain the quality and sort of, the standards that knowledgeable beer drinkers are also looking for.
It's how I found Five Boroughs supermarket. They had it. I think it was October. I don't know. Did you make a pumpkin? Probably.
We have made a pumpkin. Yeah, the last few years we've made a pumpkin. Yeah,
But it was hey, this is a
You sound embarrassed to say it.
no brewery ever wants to make a pumpkin, but they all do.
you got to do what you got to do.
You got to pay the bills. But it was an accessible craft brew because
Yeah.
it was okay. This is $1 more than some other big brand that I didn't want to buy, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
So bringing some quality, making that higher quality craft brew accessible to the public is what I noticed about it.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to get a prior client on. Not trying, because you're the first one we asked. But we wanted to get a prior client on.
Nobody ever wants to come on. None of our clients. We don't know why.
I got another one for next month. She
Okay.
says she's extremely camera shy, but she's going to do it for us. But anyway, we talk about you in sales meetings and training.
Oh, yeah.
And because I was reaching out to you, right? You reached out to me just for some information on what the house is worth.
Yeah. You did like a value assessment,
And then you weren't quite ready to do anything. So
Right.
every month or so, I'd shoot you a quick text, and sometimes you just didn't respond. And I said I didn't take that personal at all because I do the same exact thing with some other companies. And if I don't need that person right now, I won't respond.
Right.
But for a few months, I'd send you a quick text. A couple months later, send you a quick text. And eventually you needed me, so you actually answered me.
Yeah.
The way we explain it in the training is that on a Monday morning at like 9 a.m., it was like, okay, thanks so much for staying in touch with me. I appreciate it. By the way, I got to buy a house and sell one too.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
When can you come over?
Yeah.
But it was definitely interesting. So we listed your house.
Yeah.
You bought one on the same exact block.
Yeah.
But that house had a little more history, right? A little more opportunity.
Yeah, it had a little more opportunity. The original house, it was a good first house. And it was, I mean, we liked the neighborhood. We obviously liked the neighborhood since we stayed on the street. But it just didn't really have the opportunity to renovate in what we saw as a constructive or a way that made sense for the
Well, that
money.
first house was built in the 20s, if I recall.
Yeah,
right?
that house was built.
It was a cool house.
Yeah, it was built 21. Was like from the way it was explained to us is that it was kind of the records were kind of messed up at some point in Town of
That's
Oyster
right.
Bay Hall or something.
That's right.
So we had to get a letter basically saying that it was made in 1921 or built in 1921. But
But there was a chance it was in the early 1900s.
Yeah, I think it's or one way or the other. I mean, I think it was kind of a foggy date.
It
but
was
it was
built.
old.
It was there.
Yeah,
That's about all
it
we
still
know.
had locust posts as the basement supports.
that's
So
right.
that I mean, it was old enough for that. To
And
be
then
a thing.
you bought a much newer house that was built in the 1930s or so. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, really got modern on that one. Yeah, it just it actually worked out really well for us because since we felt like our hands were tied renovation wise in the original house, we never really put any money into it, but the value went up pretty good. So
Well, you did a good job with the decor. Or
Rachel, Rachel did that. My better half. But we moved down the street and got a house that was, I mean, it was the previous owner had been there for a long time and kept it in really good shape for what it was, and then we were able to move in there and kind of immediately start doing some of the projects that we had talked about for 9 years and never did. So that was
Sometimes a house might have good bones in the sense that like it's not going to fall down, but it just doesn't have the layout, the space, the stairs aren't in the right place, the front door is not in the right place in order to make it bigger or really change it. So at that point, you made the smart decision instead of spending good money trying to make the house something it's never going to be. Buy a different house. And I think a lot of people in New York, we get kind of, well, this is my house, I have to stay here. And you don't always have to do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely like, in that first house, the only bathroom in the house was directly off the kitchen. Like there was really no getting around that, or it was a lot of money to get around that. We had architects come in, but it was just.
And then you still weren't going to have a great solution.
We weren't going to have a great solution without going
What was going on in 1920, whatever, that bathrooms always are off the kitchen?
I think it was just a plumbing thing, right? I mean,
guess.
they probably didn't want to.
Makes sense.
You couldn't move the door though to the other side. The door had to be in front of the kitchen sink.
Yeah. It was an interest, and that house. I mean, the one half of it that we were using as a bedroom was an extension, and the front part was definitely a porch that they enclosed in. So that house was tiny originally.
A lot of houses in that area and different areas were built for the workers because you had to bring people out from probably Brooklyn out to Long Island to work in your little airplane factory that, as that, or truck factory. Fulton Street was named Fulton Street because of the full-ton truck company.
Right.
So you had to bring maybe somebody who knew how to build engines or whatever, and you couldn't get them here and tell them to live in a tent.
Right.
So you had to build some of those really small cottages for the workers. So you see that in certain areas. And 1924 or whatever, who knows? They were using tree trunks as framing.
Yeah. It was a good house, though. I mean, but we definitely upgraded.
You were ready.
So, yeah, we were ready.
What was that process like? So it had to be kind of scary buying and selling at the same time. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do on either side, never mind at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I think it was really helpful having you handle both sides, Jared, of the transaction.
We're 23 minutes in. I was waiting for you to say that.
Yeah. It just it was I mean, because it was a lot. It was a lot to do in between. At the same time, and also trying to clear the old house out, and it was a lot. But
moving's not for the faint of heart, is it?
Yeah,
Like
even when it's right down the street.
You two are cool as a cucumber, though.
Yeah, I mean, I tend not to get rattled too easily, but some of those moving days were rough.
I used to make a joke: never give someone a job who's in the process of buying a house because of the paperwork and the amount of time that goes into it. You're not going to get the best of them for the next couple of weeks.
Right. Yeah, that was definitely something that well, I mean, maybe less so during the buying process, but during the renovation process when I was working at home, I was just like, this is not I got to go somewhere else right now.
Right.
This isn't working out.
That's interesting for working from home because there's no escape, right?
Yeah, there's no escape. I was taking a lot of meetings in the driveway, and that was not going to do that one again,
But you stayed in Farmingdale. You've seen Farmingdale kind of change. You've been here for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, we moved into the original house in 2008, I think it was. But my family I have family around the block
Yeah.
from where I am now. My grandfather used to live on Mill Road. So every Sunday for probably the first 15 years of my life, we were out here for Sunday dinner, So, yeah, I've seen Farmingdale through a lot of stages, and I think it's in a pretty good spot right now. I mean, Main Street is coming along, and a lot of housing going up. It's less than an hour to the city, so that's kind of
it's a sweet spot.
Yeah, it's
just
a
like
sweet
my
spot.
alcohol. It's in the sweet
Yeah.
spot.
in that sweet spot. You get a lot of the positives of living in New York. There's a lot of different people, a lot of different places, a lot of different options, but not all the same complications of living in Brooklyn or Queens or Manhattan, where it's so stacked. You could kind of go home and it's a little more space. Everyone's got their backyards. We all look suspiciously when someone parks in front of our house.
Yeah.
But then you could hit Main Street and it's as much walkability as you could ever want.
Yeah.
What's your favorite food on Main Street, or Farmingdale for that matter?
Man, we've been cooking and eating at home so much lately, but I was on a tear before the last 6 months.
That's usually what happens. You go on a tear and then you
Yeah.
stay home for a
You
little
say,
bit.
why are we spending so much money eating? Like
Right.
it's over as soon as you're done.
I mean, I honestly, I eat a lot. I eat local quite a bit. I was a big Rolling Spring Roll fan, Chitties. That newer, the Villager is open over here now.
I haven't had that food yet.
The food's really good.
It's
I've
really
seen
good.
pictures.
Nice
It looks
job.
legit.
We've been, through 317 Main a few times. Yeah, I mean, hit Kick and Chicken a lot when they first opened. A little less so now, just because not eating as much fried chicken. but
It's hard to justify. Like I'm supporting local, and that means I have to stuff my face with 4 pounds of fried chicken.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but
Once in a
here
while.
and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in the last couple of years, the amount of additional food options in Farmingdale is significant.
Yeah. Almost to the point. I mean, I've seen, the social media is what it is, but some people's criticism that we basically are only opening restaurants and bars on Main Street, but
The critique is that's who patronizes.
Yeah,
those
right.
places, so-
Right. So that's.
I was just
that's
on one of those Farmingdale Facebook groups, and a woman said, what was it? They were
My brother takes
excited
the bait every time.
Yeah, I
he'll
do.
jump it.
So they were excited that a new store opened, the bra store. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know a lot about it, but I'm, they're a chamber member, and,
Yeah,
seems like she's doing good business over there. And somebody else wrote like, "Oh, good, finally an option that's not a bar or restaurant,"
Right,
because that's
right.
the first thing everyone in that
Everybody
group
says
says.
it. Yeah.
So I reply, "I'm so glad you're happy with the additional options. When do you expect to go there for the
Right.
first time?"
All right.
And the woman actually wrote, "I don't shop on Main Street."
Mm.
It's like, well,
Well, I can't. Yeah.
so what do you care if it's bars or restaurants? And I think part of why a lot of us take that almost personally.
Yeah.
I don't own any bars or restaurants on Main Street. I own a real estate company on Main Street, but
They don't want that either.
bars-
they don't want
I don't
insurance
know,
companies
yeah,
and real estate companies on there either.
the bars or the restaurants. I mean, there's really mostly restaurants. I mean,
Yeah,
it depends
yeah.
how you define them, but these places that have food are small businesses. I mean, there's like some of people think of them as big because they happen to own two. This is not;
Right.
these are not giant corporations. This
Yeah.
isn't Applebee's or Chili's. So it's nice to see a place where small businesses are opening and being successful, because when you know what you're going up against, even on the brewery side, right? When you're going up against these giant, they're not even national brands; they're international companies with billions of dollars. It's nice to see small business people being able to find a niche, find a fan club of whether it's beer drinkers or diners, and make enough money to stay open. And it's like, why are we picking on them? Why are you going to pick on the bars and restaurants who are doing a nice job?
Yeah.
Because once every 2 years there's a fight on Main Street. Well, I got news for you. There's a fight over by the train station every couple days. I mean,
Right.
It's part of the world.
You
But
should get involved in the chamber.
I should. I should.
Yeah. I
but
mean, I always welcome a new place to eat or grab a beer.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I'm all about it.
my favorite secret bar is Elisa's Niece's Cafe behind or inside of Back in Time Furniture Store, a home goods store. Have you been there?
I have not been there. I've seen.
Really?
I know it exists.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was a bar though.
Well, it's not really a bar, but in the summer, all year. But it's really nice. In another month or two, Maybe we'll buy you a beer over there. So
Yeah.
they'll have some. They sell beer and wine
Oh, okay.
in the back area, so you can
Nice.
either get coffee and a pastry, or a beer and glass of wine while you shop, or sit by the fire pit.
That's a good idea. We buy him a beer, and then he's going to give us one of those expensive 4-packs.
There you go.
Here's a what do they sell there? One of them is the Pabst, right? Here's a Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Pabst Blue Ribbon and the Lithology. They have the designated hitter and
Oh, nice. I
The other
like
one,
the DH.
the IPA one.
Yeah.
speaking of Lithology, we are hosting a charity event. So we spoke
Yep.
about it a little bit in the last podcast, but we're doing a 3-hour open bar at Lithology. We're going to get food from Burrito Mariachi on June 22nd.
Both of them are sponsors. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're trying to raise some money for metastatic breast cancer.
Nice.
And it should be a fun event. And
Yeah, what I like about the organization too, it's not just awareness, because too many of these charities like, oh, we promote awareness, which just means they spend some money on an ad campaign to make themselves look bigger, but they do awareness, support, and research. So they're giving money to people with problems, to causes, to help, to the researchers to try to find cures, make it treatable, and also some awareness too. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, sounds great.
and I'll be drunk.
Well, do they have beer between, what was it, 6.1 and 7.5 or something?
In the sweet spot,
Yeah.
I might go in the 5.5 just to
that
be
that
safe.
might be a good idea. 3 hours is a long time.
At least till towards the end, and then whatever happens,
Yeah,
happens.
ramp it up.
Jared, what about you? What have you been doing local that you're enjoying?
Well, I went to speaking of 317. Me and my buddies went there probably like a month ago, and we just got a ton of apps and 2 of the steaks, and we just whacked it all up. And their steaks were unbelievable, really good. And then last night, last night we went to I can't even remember the name of it. What's the bar upstairs from?
Oh, the High Horse.
The High Horse, and there was Street Fighter. I wish there was Mortal Kombat. I would
Buck
love
Hunter.
Buck Hunter.
Yeah, they have like the 3 games.
The
up
golf. The golf is fun too, and it was just a really cool space.
They said they wanted to have more arcade games, but then it came out too nice, so they didn't want to load it up with arcade games, and they realized they could do a lot of parties.
Speaking of whiskey, speaking of Brooklyn, it actually reminded me. Have you ever been to Brooklyn Whiskey in like Greenport area?
I have not, no.
Greenpoint. It's a really cool bar, and they have what's that game where you roll the thing? Skeet ball, all these arcades, all this cool stuff. It reminded me of that a lot.
Everybody's trying to be a brewery now.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a skee ball machine.
That'd be cool.
Maybe we'll get one here.
So I was just I forgot. What have I done?
Where'd you go?
I don't know.
Darts?
We had darts. Yeah, that's Tuesday nights. It goes till midnight. That's makes Wednesdays interesting. No, but after the parade, we all went to Croxley's, and every time I have their wings, I go, "Yep, that's right." I kind of forget that they have great wings.
Yeah,
So
they do.
That was a recent one. A lot of great places on Main, and then I've talked about it before, but the Gyro Taco House over on 109 in the gas station. Just had that again.
Oh, yeah?
It was really good. Really good, the kebabs. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Any last thoughts, Paul?
Last thoughts? No, just, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it was fun. We got to check out 5 Borough.
Yeah.
Got to maybe go there one day.
Yeah, let me know.
Where is it? Where is it
It's
actually?
in Sunset Park.
Okay,
Brooklyn,
that's
so
where Dad actually lived for a bunch of years.
Oh, yeah.
Sunset Park. Yep.
do a memory tour and stop in for a beer.
There you go. We'll
Sounds
take
like
it.
a plan.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Those Real Estate Brothers with Joseph and Jared. Subscribe now to get updates on future episodes, and please share it with others. Want to connect? Message us on Google, Facebook, Instagram, or text. We'll see you next time. And remember to always work hard and be nice.